All right, traders, welcome to today's market recap. This is Christian Primehurst, Tribeca Trade Group, and it is Tuesday, August 2nd. Risk disclaimer in front of you. Everything that we're going through is for information purposes only. You could read the full risk disclaimer here. So theme of the day, very headline-filled day. We had this political stuff going on with the Speaker of the House is going over to China making threats, basically on, several times today. That just adds to the wall of worry and uncertainty. Very, very headline filled. And then you had, I think, like 3 Fed speakers today too, kind of walking back, the positive sentiment that was kind of earned a little bit from that Fed meeting last week, right? Although I didn't really see anything change. I try to kind of give the room, as well as I talk about it in these end of day videos, if Fed fund futures are really changing. And you don't really have that because if you've watched my video from day to day, you know that it's been about 60 basis points is what they are implying for September 21st. And this moved about a basis point or two. This is now another 30 basis points when you get to the November meeting. But, I think this is really subject to change. November 21st is a long way away. We're going to get all kinds of economic data that comes out and employment data, speaking of which, we get another jobs report that comes out on Friday. Whether that's going to really change the picture that much is arguable because, they really want to get the inflation down a lot further. So, again, remains to be seen. We know that the Fed is still tightening, so it's a difficult environment right now to be, adding a lot of outside risk right now in this market with with the geopolitical concerns as well as what's going on with the Fed. But again, it's one of those games too where the market is forward looking, and you could see that as you get past November and into December, the slope starts to kind of flatten out here, and then as you get to next year, it starts to go the other way, indicating that there might be rate cuts. So again, the market is forward looking, and I think that's partially what's kind of going on with this market. So let's talk about some of the moves today, because again, some interesting things taking place for the day. Let me take this out here because this is how I had this updated earlier today. It's just kind of crazy because when I just stepped off to kind of to pick up my lunch, there was volatility, and that's just how the market is right now. You could get up for 10 minutes and there could be some story that hits the tape, and that's what we're dealing with right now. And that kind of felt like it was going to be that type of day with Pelosi going over to Taiwan. You just knew that at any point another headline could come out that could kind of move the market one way or another. So a little bit frustrating for me. I was like, hey, I ordered something, I got to go pick it up, and because most of the time I spend all my time in front of the screens during the day. Big move in bonds, right? I had a lot of questions about this, right? And I thought what was really interesting too, coming into the day, specifically, pre-market, I look at some of the risk on, risk off, indicators, right? Such as what cryptos are doing, what the yen is doing, what bonds are doing, what the VIX is doing. So, this was a very back and forth day. If you look at the VIX, the pattern of the VIX for the day, this is where we were, which is up about 5 or 6%. We kind of, gave that back around 12 o'clock. And then here was where another headline came in. And, so the VIX did finish off the highs, but still up 4.7%, 4.8%. For the day. So yes, there was a lot of mixed pictures, things a lot of those risk off things, like the yen was higher for the second, big move in the yen for the last couple days, and that tapered off, right? The yen usually goes up when there's heightened risk, right? When it's kind of an overall warning signal, when you see the yen move up very aggressively. Well, this came in. right? The one thing that didn't, and then of course this one did too. Bonds came in pretty decently. And again, this is why we kind of look at these things. And this is something that I tweeted out yesterday. I also tweeted it out this morning. Sometimes the market, and especially we see this a lot in commodities, where the market likes to take out these version point of controls, right? And what these are, again, is a high area of volume that hasn't been revisited. So it's almost like a gap. Like people love gaps, right? Technicians, they love to talk about, different gaps when they're not looking at either a stock or if they're looking at an index. If you look at more futures, there's not many, there's less gaps because futures trade almost continuously around the clock. But in any event, without going off tangent, it's kind of the same concept, right? And these volume pivots, they usually come back at some point and get filled, right? So that's what you have here. And then you also have this reversion, right? Another one that's just to give you an example, but I talk about these in every one of these videos. But here was the one in Nat Gas from last week. Look at the reversion off of that. This was a huge day. I think at one point, Nat Gas was up in the double digits, and that was taken out, and then big reversal off of that. Notice we reversed all the way down and took out this one today, right? Which is from the July value area. So if you don't understand all of these concepts, you could always ask me questions. This is something that we go over at Tribeca Trade Group a lot. We gave a webinar, I think 2 weeks ago, specifically on the value areas and the version point of controls and how I use them in my trading. But you have to be a member for that stuff. So, but I don't talk about, I don't really plug Tribeca Trade Group every day, or probably I do it once a week. But if you are looking to trade with a community, I had a couple questions today about how our service is run, and what I do during the day, and I use ideas that I have, and I use my technical system, right? And that's really helping me in this market, because this is something that members have heard me say a lot. But this was a hitting singles day, right? I played DraftKings today, right? Why did I play DraftKings? Well, because DraftKings loves to, some other people commented on a post I put out earlier. Yes, I'm aware that Massachusetts approved online gambling, I think, but that's kind of like with the pot stocks, right? They don't, the pot stocks, every time a state legalizes cannabis for their state, it doesn't really, it moves up a little bit and then comes back. So it's not really a great catalyst. And I think the same thing with states getting approval. I think it's more football season, right? And if you look at past sporting events, for example, the Super Bowl, the gambling sites love to rally into those events. And I think the trade is that, so this is kind of meshing together a technical picture, a technical idea, which is, this thing breaking out of this sideways range. And you have a catalyst football season. Most likely these names are going to rally a bit into football as you hear more about football season, right? It's a big betting season and big revenue generator for these companies. So yes, I tweeted that out, and so that's kind of what we do is we try to connect the dots, have some fundamental ideas, some catalyst ideas, and have the technicals have to line up for me to put on a trade, right? The other one that I tried too, which was what I was looking at this name because DraftKings had not really triggered. We were in the month of July and we were still inside value. But I also thought, nobody's talking about Penn Gaming. No one has talked about Penn National Gaming. The stock is all the way down here. Same type of chart setup, right? Base and, a move out of the value area. And where am I looking to take this trade off? Right around 37.40, right? So I'm using my technical system to say, in this market, which is what I'm doing more than anything else, because that's what the market is giving to us, is these types of small swing trades, in short term swing trades. We're, looking for point A to point B, right? There's also this VPOC there at 3660, which almost got taken out today, right? So again, you've got some volume areas right in front of this. So that's all that I'm looking for. Plus this name also reports earnings, right? So you could see this was the first trade that I got into today. And again, I didn't even keep this on as a full runner, right? I got 14.95 out of this. And, where did DraftKings close? DraftKings closed, I think, on the highs of the day. So, that's okay, right? In this market, I'm not looking to get to time these trades perfectly. If I can get a couple profitable trades out of this market, on a day like this where we're just all over the place, then that's perfect, right? And specifically, you kind of just felt like it was going to be very headline driven, right? So we basically went right back to where we were to the end of the day for the overall market. By the way, where does that leave us? In terms of the technicals? Well, I talked about this in yesterday's video, and I think if we come in here and if we take out these lows, this is something that I try to set up in the pre-market session, but I didn't really need to do anything because we took off on the open. But I think if we come in and if we take out today's lows, which we're very close to that, then I can put on a trade to maybe set up for a move down to the top of value, which is 40.32. Similarly in the Nasdaq, I was talking about if we took out the lows, we did not. But if we do, and even now as a possible hedge with this market going back and forth, right, 12.723 is where we have the next really support, right? So you could try to play that downside trade, but like with anything else with this market, you have to have a stop, in my opinion, right? Every trade that I put on is planned out, right, in terms of where it could go wrong. Having a soft stop, and then of course planning out your targets. So in any event, there's not in the Nasdaq, which was down 30 basis points, there's not really much to kind of go off of here, right? You just kind of have to wait a little bit, right? The other thing too is we're still carrying above the 5-period moving average. So again, you could bring out a crystal ball and say, okay, I think this is going to happen or this is going to happen, and you could plan for that by putting on a couple trades. But I like to trade with signals, right? Sometimes it's a little bit late because this market is moving so fast, but I would really watch to see if we break the 5-period moving average in the Qs, then, I could put on a downside hedge trade, maybe either a put spread or maybe just kind of play something with the SQQQ if volatility shows up again, during this week. All right, so that's the plan. Again, I'm still seeing some decent setups. IWM, by the way, outperformed again, right? Was pretty constructive yesterday. There's nothing really here either, in my opinion. Of course, you could play for a move. You could try to anticipate a move down to that 184.40 support. But again, I think you're really kind of anticipating, rather than just waiting, right? That was something that I talked about in yesterday's video, right? Not trading and not shorting a dull. Well, today wasn't a dull market. Yesterday was kind of dull, but not shorting a dull market, and also, just waiting things out a little bit, right? Specifically with all these types of events that we've got going on. What else did I trade today? Again, I scalped Boeing. I was out of that pretty quickly. Again, I left a little bit of money on the table to the upside, right? This thing hit today, about 167. I think I took this off at 166. Right. So I left $1 on the table, but look at what happened to it. It's down at 163. Right. So again, some trades, I'm just looking for very quick, day trades. And I even said most likely will be a day trade. All right. So that's what kind of helped me out today. Unfortunately, I had to take this halo off. I just didn't, I saw that there was volatility. Plus, this name reports earnings next week. I've been kind of trying to be patient with it. It still has the 50-day moving average, which I hate to take off a trade when it really hasn't broken down. But I saw some other opportunities, and right now, as I said in the very beginning of this video, it's tough to keep adding risk in this market. I find what I'm doing is, if I like a couple setups, I'm taking a couple, I'm taking a couple of trades off, one specifically that I like the least, right? And I took CPNG off, right, which I think also looks fine, right? It almost took out this VPOC, which was my ultimate target, another 50 cents up. I don't trade this one that much, right? And it's, I just think it has limited movement above. So I was able to make it work and get it to be a profitable trade, but I just like this setup a little bit more, right? So this is another name. Now they're in different countries, but they're both Asia names. And I like the setup here. Sideways, sideways, sideways. We're seeing this in a lot of different charts. And the other thing is, I like this really narrow value area, right? That to me indicates that a big move is coming, right? Usually when we have a really narrow value area, it's kind of the equivalent. I hear this expression a lot, which I like this to play this as well. But when moving averages get coiled, that usually means when 3 moving averages get wrapped around. So you also have that going on too, right? So you got a fresh break of the value area, and I would be looking for something like 87.40. Let's see if we see anything else on the 1 hour chart. I think there's another, this VPOC was taken out. So again, I don't really want to see the red lines very close by, right? The farther away the red lines are, the overhead supply, in terms of high volume that we haven't revisited, the better. I don't want to see one that's $2 in front of me. So yeah, this has a chance. Now there's some extensions away from the value area that I would maybe take some targets along the way, but I like the fact that we don't have anything right in front of this. All right, so I went long this, and there was also a decent amount of call activity, just August calls that went up, pretty far out of the money, by the way, calls. I think they were August. Let me just check. I think they might have been, let's see, the 95 calls, right? So, I mean, if this thing takes off, which it can, that also covers earnings. So maybe some pre-positioning, but they got into that for pretty cheapy calls, like $1.50, $1.60. And that's the 95, which again, hey, I'm looking to go in that direction for the trade. Also Gtlb was another trade too that I've been in and out of this trade. This was a nice trade for me back in July, because I kept on selling it on strength. I wouldn't sell the whole thing, but I kept taking, a hefty target. And then when it would come in, I would buy it back, and then I would take a target again. So it kept moving back on that. And finally I took the trade off here, but I've been watching it, right? It's one of the things that I talk a lot about. If you get stopped out of a trade, or, if you choose to take it off, put an alert right back on it. Right? Sometimes traders, when they get stopped out of a trade, they're like, oh, I hate this name, I can't look at it again, right? You've got to kind of, forget about that, and, have that short-term memory, be like a goldfish, and realize that the setup may just have not materialized yet, and you have to be patient. So it didn't close on the highs today, but I did add a trade in this, and we'll see if it can begin to break out of the range. I did a couple earnings trades too. So many of these names are basing and starting to move up. PayPal, I think, is up after hours. So I was 1 for 2 on trades to go to our earnings trade. I did the August 5th 92.97 call spread. I also did the AMD. I'm a fan of AMD, so notice that I'm not risking a lot for either one of these trades. I only risked $1.20 for the 102 104 call spread, which doesn't look like it's going to work, and there's the PayPal spread as well. All right, guys, that's it for today's video. Again, It's been a difficult market to trade. You know that we're kind of still a little bit digesting, last week's gains. I think really being patient, being able to be, nimble in this market, right? I'm really kind of balancing what I'm putting on, versus how much risk I want to take in this market, and kind of going from there. All right, guys, have a great night, and I will see you bright and early tomorrow morning.